Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Campbell Keel. I am the coordinator of transfer initiatives in the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, and I am very excited to welcome you to today's advisor forum. Today's forum is called It Takes Two to Transfer, a conversation with our colleagues at two-year institutions. And this forum really couldn't come at a better time because this week is National Transfer Student Week. If you are not familiar, National Transfer Student Week is a week-long celebration and recognition of transfer students at higher education institutions across the country. Missouri State has several events for our transfer students, including one right after today's forum. But if you'd like to see the full calendar of events or learn more information, you can find that at the Transfer Advocate blog or on Missouri State social media pages. I had a really great time putting together all the events for Missouri State students, but I thought it would be really important to have an event for the people that work with our Missouri State transfer students, whether that be advisors at Missouri State or advisors at two-year institutions. We all play a really important role in the success of transfer students. So I am so appreciative of all the work you do and really appreciative of our panelists who are joining us today. We have three fantastic representatives from two-year institutions across the state of Missouri with us today. Before we do introduce those panelists and kick things off, though, I do have two quick announcements I'd like to share. So the first announcement, if you would like to receive Master Advisor credit for today's workshop, please put your name and department in the chat, and we can document that and get you Master Advisor credit after today's forum. If you know people who would like to watch the forum but were unable to make it today, we are recording this forum and we will have it posted on the Mo State Advising YouTube channel later on for future viewings too. And our final announcement before we get started is that this is not the only advisor forum happening in the month of October. We do have a fantastic forum next week for you as well. On Wednesday, October 25th, Justin Johns, the Associate Director of the Academic Advising and Transfer Center, will be facilitating a forum on motivational advising. It will be from 12 to 1 in PSU 308, and we hope to see you there. So with that being said, though, I wanted to go ahead and introduce our panelists for today. We've got three fantastic institutions represented, as mentioned. We have Cindy Bridges from Missouri State University, West Plains, Kim Flora from Jefferson College, and Ginger Luke from OTC joining us today. And because we have such fantastic representatives, I wanted to give them the opportunity to introduce themselves. So my first question for the three of you, going in alphabetical order here, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself? So Cindy, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am Cindy Bridges, and I work on the West Plains campus of Missouri State. And I am the Director of Advising and Academic Support. I've been advising students since August of 2006, so it's been a few years. What led me to the field of academic advising particularly, I won't take time to tell you my whole story because it's kind of different sometimes than others. I worked part-time here, became a student then, and went through associates, bachelor's, master's programs, all with Missouri State through our outreach programs to finish those higher level degrees. And throughout that time, I actually worked with students tutoring math and many other, wore a lot of different hats, started teaching some per course, knew that I wanted to stay in the field of education, and honestly, an opportunity became available in advising. And I thought, what better way to help students succeed and be a part of their success than to pursue that opportunity. So I became an advisor. A few years later, I found myself in the position of coordinator then of academic advising. And then now just through some changes, I'm the director over advising and academic support. So that's kind of just a little bit of back history.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Kim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, my name's Kim Flora. I work at Jefferson College, that is in Jefferson County in Missouri. So we are over on the east side, south of St. Louis, for those of you who aren't familiar with us. I've been working in some sort of educational or job training counseling since 1997. I've been here at Jeffco since March of 2006. So apparently 2006 was a good year for academic advising. I am currently the coordinator of our advising services here at Jeffco. As far as what led me to the field of advising, um, I I keep telling people I just can't work out in the public sector. I've worked for government and educational features for pretty much my entire life in one form or another. Um, what I like best about academic advising is you really don't know what's coming next from day to day. You really get the chance to use all of these experiences and things that you have learned in various positions to really guide that next person, give them that helpful step along to their path.
Thank you. And Ginger, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Ginger Luke. I work at OTC and I am the Director of Student Success for Art, Sciences, and Business, formerly General Education Division. I have been at OTC since 2003, working in the field of advising and student success. I have been in higher ed for 24 years, in advising at other institutions. What led me into this field, when I was an undergrad, I was a marketing major, and I had a marketing instructor who was also over the advisement center in the College of Business. And she was looking for another peer advisor, and it was a work study position, and had asked me. I was in one of her classes, so I worked as a peer advisor for 3 years, my sophomore through senior year. It was such a great experience. When I graduated with my marketing degree, I went out into the corporate world because I thought I had to do that. And I did it for a couple of years, and I just always remembered my experience as an advisor. Even though it was just a peer advisor position, I just really loved connecting with students in that way, and I really missed that type of work. And so that's what kind of led me back into higher ed at that point. I'm always really energized by a college environment and inspired by students. And so I've been doing it all this time now.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing a little bit about yourself. For everyone in attendance, we do have a series of questions that we'll be asking the three of them throughout this forum, but you are welcome to ask questions using the chat feature. We've saved a little bit of time for a Q&A at the end because we do anticipate some questions. So please feel free to drop those questions in the chat as we go throughout. But our first question for the three of you: what does advising look like at your institution? Are students required to meet with an advisor? What do caseloads look like? So we'll just continue in that same order. Cindy, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Pardon me. So advising at the West Plains campus, we have an office, my department, that is devoted to advising any students, but we do have particular caseloads of students that we work with, typically around 100, some a little more, some a little less for a caseload. But we're also seeing any prospective students that come in, any students who are not able to connect with their faculty advisor. We welcome them as well. We do have faculty advisors. They're most often not available during the breaks between semesters or summer. And so again, we pick up that advising typically. And faculty advisors typically have much smaller caseloads, with a couple of exceptions for particular degree programs. Students are required to see their academic advisor each semester to be released to register for the following semester. We kind of have a way of doing that as far as the advisor can go in and actually put in an advisor release, or they can give them what we call an alternate PIN code that the student has to enter when they go into the registration screens. I think that I addressed each of those questions, but let me know if I didn't cover them well enough.
You sure did. Kim, would you like to go next?
So we also do caseload advising at Jeffco. We have about 2,600 students that are assigned. That's not including our early college. They have a separate advising platform that they go through. So that's our regular college students. We do advising specialists based on major. So we have certain majors grouped together. So every student is assigned an advising specialist. They are also assigned a secondary advisor for faculty. So they kind of get one of each for those students. But we do also have the same issue with availability with faculties, scheduling and things like that. New students are required to meet with an advisor at least one time for their scheduling. After that, they do not have any holds. They can self-register. They have to figure kind of that out on their own almost. We don't try to show them how to work around. We want them to come in here. But they do have the ability to self-register if they wish to. As far as overall caseloads, so we currently have 7 full-time advising specialists. And then we are also very fortunate to have a student athlete advisor, so they kind of deal with that population. And then we also have a fantastic student support services trio program here. So they have a caseload of students that they deal with as well. So overall, our advising caseloads are around 300 for each advisor that we're looking at. Some a little less, some a little more. That's kind of what, as far as overall, hopefully that covers all those bases.
It sure does. Thank you. Ginger, what does advising look like at OTC?
Okay, so at OTC, new students will do their first semester advising with an admission counselor. And at that point, once they are registered for their first semester, they will then be transitioned to a college navigator. And so that's the team that I work with in art sciences and business. They are not required to meet with our college navigator each semester, but we certainly try everything possible to make that happen. Our work is very proactive. Not only do we assist students with academic advising, but we're also the face of financial aid for the student and working with them on financial aid situations. We do not have faculty advising. Every student here has a college navigator. So like I said, I'm in art sciences and business. We currently have 12 navigators in our area. The average caseload currently, as of this morning, is 425 for each person. And so that includes a mix of active and passive students. So even our passive students who are not currently enrolled, we're trying to reach out with them to work with them to get, if they want to come back to the institution. And then in the Springfield, on the Springfield campus, we also have areas of navigators in technical education and health sciences. And they have around 6 or 7 navigators in each of their areas.
Perfect. Thank you. Our next question for the 3 of you. What are common characteristics of your student population? Are your students typically commuter students? How do they prefer to take classes? Things like that.
Okay, so for us, we have a huge mix because we do have, with being here at the West Plains campus, and it's, most of us would consider West Plains, in that smaller town, around 12,000 for the population, but we have a lot of students who live, outside of West Plains, but close enough to drive here. And so we have quite a few commuter students. We do have student housing, and so we have students that live on campus. A lot of those are student athletes, but not all. We do have other students that come in. Maybe they live more than 2 hours away, and so they may be living in campus housing. Again, with the seated versus online, we are kind of at that position right now where some of our classes we don't have enough students in a particular program maybe to offer both seated and online classes for that program or for particular classes in the program. And so sometimes it's hard to tell whether a student prefers online or they just have to take online because that's the only way the class is offered. And so you'll have students who may be living in campus housing, but they're taking many or maybe all of their classes online because for their program, that's how they're offered. And so again, I can't really tell you that it's one way or the other, more so because it may change every semester as far as this student may be preferring all seated, but maybe they have a mix of online and seated because that's how their program offers their classes. So we have just a huge mix. If you talk to 20 different students, you'll probably have 20 different situations for it.
Perfect, thank you. Kim, what are characteristics of your student population?
Ours are pretty varied as well. For the most part, we are a commuter campus. We're a rural area. We're close to St. Louis, but it's very much more spread out than a city campus would be. We do have some on-campus housing. It's around 200 students, so not a real large population. As far as mix between traditional, non-traditional ages, I'd say it's probably around like a 60-40 split. We have a pretty good, honestly, large population of our non-traditional age students that are coming back. So, they may be attending part-time or they may be working. So we see those students honestly really prefer a lot of the online classes or potentially hybrid classes, so that they can flex those around work schedules or children activity schedules or different things like that. I would say the grand majority of our traditional age students really prefer to be on campus. They want to be in person. I don't know if that is simply from them having some issues after most of those students had to be switched online for COVID in high school, and they had a very negative experience. A lot of our students are very hesitant in that population to do online classes. But they still are very popular. So we have kind of a mix of both of those. I think it just does vary a little bit on that population and what they're needing.
Okay, at OTC, commuter campus, we do not have any residence facilities. We have locations in Springfield. We have our Richwood Valley campus, which is in Nixa, Table Rock, which is in Hollister. We have Republic, Lebanon, and Waynesville. The average age, has really dropped a lot in the last several years. So of course we have a lot of non-traditional students, but we have a lot of students that are just right out of high school coming to us. In terms of seated or online, I would say that we have more students interested in online classes, but still certainly a lot that are seated. We also have a format called live virtual learning. So the student can either, for their 10 o'clock English class, either go to the actual classroom or they can log on from wherever at 10 o'clock for that class and participate that way. And that's really nice for our students who might be in Waynesville, for example, and they are wanting to take, an upper level math class. that is only offered, in Springfield. They don't have enough students in Waynesville to offer that seated. So that allows them to participate, enroll in that class. I've shadowed several of those classes and logged on just to see what it looks like. I've seen students actually on their laptops in the lobby at Waynesville, logging into an LVL class, because maybe they don't have, good internet at their home, in that Waynesville area or whatnot. So it's really a mix. But yeah, the online classes are always pretty solid for us.
So thank you all. Our next question for the three of you is, what programs are most popular at your institution and what do those programs look like? So Cindy, would you like to go first?
Sure. So our list of associate's degrees is continually growing, as many of you may have as well. But we have, I would say, the most selected programs would be our general Associate of Arts and General Studies transfer degree, Associate of Arts in Teaching, Health Professions, several Associate of Science degrees, Business, Agriculture. We're starting to see more students in the Computer Science and Engineering Technology programs. As far as how those programs look, and I left off Associate of Science in Nursing, which that one students may stop after that and not go for a bachelor's degree, but it's there as a possibility that they may go on to a bachelor's of science in nursing, or even we've had students go on and do the nurse practitioner program, work their way through that. Most of those programs, again, are a combination of seated and online classes. Some of them, like the nursing program, are primarily seated. Once you get into the program classes, some of the gen ed, they could get seated or online. We do have a program within the nursing program that is for LPN to RN students. That's an all online cohort. So many of those students do go on and transfer to MSU for their Bachelor of Science in Nursing. And then as far as several of those also have, which you all may be aware of, we have the 2+2 agreements, so that makes the transition nice, and the layout as far as the sequencing and that sort of thing much easier for students and advisors to follow. So we're very appreciative of that. I think that's pretty well. What I would point out is some of the more sought after degrees, but we are seeing some changes in that. We have a lot of applied science associate's degrees, and sometimes students may start there, but then they circle back around and say, okay, I think I do want to go for a bachelor's, and so what do I need to add to this to transition into a bachelor's program?
So here I would say probably our largest programs are in our business areas. We do business, accounting. We have both Associate of Arts for transfer and then also Associate of Applied Science degrees in those areas. So those are very popular. Those do have a mix very much of online or seated on campus. So we have a big variety of those classes for students. Our nursing is also very popular. We do both LPN and RN programs here. And so students, depending upon where they are, may be starting those primarily on campus for those. They can do some of their gen eds, like their English and psychologies and things online, but pretty much those are all here. Teacher education is another pretty big one. And again, that's a mix. We have a variety. The programs that we have seen probably growing the most here are our Associate of Science for Engineering and Biology programs. Those have been increasing in numbers, as well as our fine arts programs. We have an Associate of Fine Arts in both art and music. And so those are all by engineering we've had for quite some time. The Associate of Science in Biology is a newer program, as well as those fine arts degrees. And so that's very encouraging when we see those numbers increasing. Again, most of those are on campus when we're looking at the sciences. They do have, again, some opportunity for the gen eds to be online, but just kind of a mix of that. As far as online programs, like I said, I'd probably say our business, our what we call health information technology, or just general education classes. We have a pretty wide variety of online options for those.
For us in art sciences and business, by far our most popular program is the general studies. So that's where the majority of our students go, followed by teaching and business, also very big ones for us. And those are online programs. Students can, wherever they're at, they may have a navigator at, Lebanon or Waynesville, that can also advise for those areas. So that doesn't necessarily fall under our area in Springfield. Art sciences and business outside of gen studies, business and teacher education are other programs that we advise that are going to be smaller. English, criminal justice, very popular. Social work, also very popular. Interdepartmental studies. Recently, electronic media production and graphic design moved under our area, which were formerly in technical education. And we also have degrees in chemistry, biology, engineering, math, pre-farm. There's probably something I'm forgetting. I'm trying to go through the hallway and think of the department chairs. But we have, several, but by far AA Gen is going to be the most popular.
Awesome, thank you all. Our next question is, what obstacles do you or your team face when advising students through the transfer process?
So for us, here at the West Plains campus, I would say that the most challenging piece is, because of our unique situation being part of the MSU system, is that students have a really difficult time understanding that, yes, you really do have to apply for admission, send your transcripts, that sort of thing, because they think, but I am a Missouri State student. And so they don't understand many times that it's a separate process. They can't just, because they're enrolled in West Plains campus, just when the time comes, hey, I can take this 300 level, psychology class or whatever it might be. And so just trying to communicate that, and not just, student, you need to do this, but why they need to do that. They have a hard time understanding that sometimes. I think we see it more so if the student is going into one of the outreach programs like teaching, or an all online class or all online program. Like I've had several that were doing the online psychology program, or they were doing one of the business programs. And so I think we see that more so than if they're going to physically transfer to Springfield campus, because I think they can see the separation there a little bit easier. So that would be primarily what I would say we just run into frequently.
I don't, with the population that I advise, I actually advise all non-degree seeking students. So my population's a little different, but working here as long as I have, I certainly have dealt with many transfer students. The biggest obstacle I think that we face is getting them to want to leave Jefferson County. I mean, honestly, we're very fortunate that we have some schools that offer programs here at Jeffco, other four-year partners, and that is awesome. But trying to get students to see that that is not the end all be all. They have other choices. They can look at things. They can go elsewhere, and try to sort through some of that information with them, and get them to try to decide, or at least look at this information and not be so frightened by going and talking to people, and talking to those other schools, and trying to get them to see what those other options may be, and not being overwhelmed by it is probably one of the hardest things that we deal with. Well, if they can come in here and say, yeah, this is what I want to do, and this is where I'm looking at going, we can help them decipher that information and help them narrow that down and get them in touch with contacts. But trying to get that information to them and having them decide when it's not April is really, really key for us. That's probably one of the biggest challenges that we deal with.
For us, you know, I see that students struggle with the earlier deadlines and the firm deadlines that they will encounter at a university. And, you know, that is something that we really try to talk with them about. And it is more relaxed. They're used to something that's a little bit more relaxed here. And so that is, you know, it's not necessarily an obstacle, but it's definitely something that they have to learn. And sometimes they have to learn that the hard way when they miss those deadlines. I think that they just become very comfortable here, which, you know, insert OTC or any other institution, that's really common. They get used to a process here, how things are here, and it can be scary, the change, even though they're wanting to go on to that next chapter, but it's bigger, it's different. And so getting them to follow through on the things that we, you know, kind of advise them on, you know, trying to get them connected with that next institution and then the transfer advisor to talk about things, having them actually do those things so that they can move on, really is the biggest obstacle. I feel like we are very blessed to have really great relationships with our transfer partners. So I feel like, you know, in terms of having information that we can pass to the student about courses and deadlines and different things like that is great. But the students, you know, have to actually take that next step.
Absolutely. All right, next question for the three of you. How should we as an institution prepare to help students as they transfer from your institution to Missouri State?
So I think maybe I saw that Bart was on here. So Bart has been a great help to us here at West Plains campus. He always provides me the VIP transfer day posters and information to share with students, post all over campus, share with advisors, that sort of thing. So that's very beneficial. We do have some students that go up and attend those. My only thought though for that is, you know, a lot of our students are not able, they want to, but they're not able to attend those specific days because of classes or, you know, whatever it might be, maybe their work schedule, that kind of thing. And I just wonder sometimes if maybe there was, because I know those are very specific typically to the program area. But I wondered if maybe we had some sort of virtual event that students could attend, just kind of more general to help ease that transfer, that transition, and whether it's just the very beginning baby steps, you know, getting applied, how to send your transcript, but also starting to build those connections, because then, like Ginger and Kimberly were both saying, these students, many times they're very nervous and scared to go to a bigger place. And so even just those beginning steps can seem overwhelming to them. But if they can start putting some faces to the whole process, you know, sometimes that eases it for them. And the anxiety and that kind of connected to that process. But also we've had, in the past, I know we've had some transfer events on our campus where transfer advisors came down, and it might have been for particular areas like health sciences areas, that sort of thing. But getting students, again, connected in some way, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, if they can start having some conversation with those folks, I think that just kind of makes them feel a little bit more comfortable and confident about taking the steps that they need to take. But also us advisors attend those typically. And so we get to make those connections as well. And it's sure we can pick up a phone and call, but it just is really nice to be able to make a connection kind of more face to face again, whether it's virtual like this or whether it's in person. So I think that those are some good opportunities.
I would definitely agree. And I love that we always have the posters, and we can put out emails trying to get students to come and see them and come visit the people when they are here. Is always a challenge. I appreciate the visits that we do get, and that is awesome. And I love that you all have come to do presentations to our advisors as well about programs, which is also very helpful, because if a student's coming to an advisor to ask about, you know, hey, do you know about this program or that? It's good that we can have that little bit of recollection, or again, yeah, oh yeah, I met Brett or Keely, and this is their person, and they're great, and ask them questions. So we're, you know, have that contact that we can make as well. I love that we have some of the 2+2 plans, that if I have a student in, I can just click on this and say, hey, look, here's the classes, here's the stuff, you know, and show them. So doesn't necessarily have to be a real specific 2+2, but just general transfer guides, things like that. That helps us show the students how they get from point A to point B and how everything is going to kind of mesh together. So I think that helps solidifies that in their minds and make that pathway clearer for them.
At OTC, we are very, very lucky to have Donna Redman. That is very, very special that she works on our campus, and it's just it's so great for students, because you know, we utilize her so much that it's so nice just to be able to send a student and they can, you know, have a friendly face and the face of Missouri State here on campus, and start guiding them through the admission steps, and you know, offer some suggestions on, you know, elective selections and different things like that. So I'm super proud of the relationship that we have with Missouri State as a transfer partner. You know, it's something I brag about when I am in company with other institutions, that we have this really special partnership. So I really, really value that. I just can't say enough, and how well that is, you know, received by our students. There's anything new I could say in terms of what Missouri State could do to help our students, you know, bringing your programs on campus, whether it be social work or criminal justice or whatever, just information sessions, you know, please continue to offer those. Those are really great. I love having the virtual option for our students as well, to participate with those, but just giving them a friendly face, someone to connect with, that's so huge. I think that helps to kind of lower the nerves a little bit when they need to then step foot on your campus. They're like, okay, I've already, you know, I met Natalie Curry. She was so great and friendly, and it just kind of helps ease the nerves a little bit. You know, the times that we've had MSU at OTC Day here, that's also really great. I think anytime that you can, you know, bring your programs here to campus so that students can interact with you and your your teams is great. So that, it makes them want to learn more once they finally go across the street, step foot on your campus.
Thank you all so much. I'm seeing lots of compliments for Bart and Donna in the chat. So I just wanted to publicly say that for the recording in the future. They are fabulous. Thank you both for what you do. And our final question for the three of you, in general, knowing that you all have lots of information and knowledge on how two-year institutions work and send your students to four-year institutions all across the state, what do you feel like are steps that four-year institutions can take to better partner with two-year institutions to promote student success?
Okay, so I was thinking primarily about, so we have Deanna Smith, who's I can't remember now what her most current title is because it has changed a few times, but she's basically a liaison between West Plains campus and Springfield campus, just kind of in general, but then she also has helped over the years with many of the specific programs. So having, again, that person here on campus or several folks here on campus where students who are interested in maybe a specific program that has classes through the outreach center, but maybe not, maybe just in general. And how can I connect? So my advisor gave me, this person to contact for a transfer advisor at Springfield campus. Can you help me get in contact with them or that sort of thing? Also, I mentioned Bart earlier. He's been great to come down and talk to various classes, particularly like our GP 101 equivalent here, which is IDS 110 student success. So those students that are just getting started, typically when he's down here, he sets up a table, and students can stop by and chat with him, ask any questions they might have. That's been really a great opportunity. He's presented in our advisor workshops, both here on campus and in virtual format in various years. But just having that information out to advisors, and he's, provided information for them to help ease that transition. Whereas before we started doing that, especially faculty advisors, they were like, I don't know what to, check with the Springfield campus to see who you're supposed to talk to about this. They didn't really understand how to help as well as far as getting that process started, let alone contacting or connecting the student with the transfer advisor for their intended major. So that's been really beneficial. Thank you, Bart. And then even here in more recent last year or two, working with the folks on the Title III grant, our success coaching program, just again, getting our advisors and success coaches talking with Springfield campus advisors and success coaches. Any kind of connection that we can make like that is valuable. And students are getting more consistent information, I think.
I would definitely agree with all of those things. I think coming from, at least I'll speak for Jeffco, and it sounds like it's very much the same way at Cindy and Ginger's institutions. We had the students here have a specialist, they have an advisor, they have a person. In my role, I often cover if someone has to be out because they're sick or whatever last minute. And when I go out to meet with these students, they're like, oh, you're not my person. You're not Mandy. You're not David. And so they like having that person. So the sooner we can get them to their person at your institution, the better, and get that same level of comfort. One of the other things I would also see is maybe making some connections with some of the special services. We have, a fantastic, our accessibility, I apologize, our accessibility resource office for our students who are needing accommodations. that's a pretty scary thing for them to try to get transitioned from one school to another. So sometimes reaching out to know who we need to connect them with for some of those things, tutoring, academic resources, what's it, our TRIO programs. So knowing how to help them navigate some of those issues from one school to another, I think would also be a good outreach as well.
Something that I would suggest is to provide more opportunities for advisors from community colleges onto your campus. Now, OTC, you know, we've got it easy, right? It's easy for us to go down the street and be on your campus and do a great tour and see different things. But you know, other institutions, you know, they're larger, but you know, University of Arkansas, Mizzou, S&T, you know, have invited us and other community colleges to their campus for anywhere from a day to 3 days. And really, you know, we got to see, you know, into so many different departments, the student experience. And I've not only were we able to connect with that institution and then other, you know, community colleges, but I really feel like we're able to walk away with a better feel of what it's like to be on that campus and what our students may experience. And so, you know, if Missouri State were to offer something like that, I mean, even though we're down the road and I feel like I got a feel on what Missouri State offers, I would happily go because I'm always learning something new every time. And so, you know, not just to get students on your campus, but to try to get advisors there so that we can sell your programs even more. It just makes it so much easier to do when we've actually been inside a classroom, we've interacted with a department chair, you know, to really feel that feeling like, wow, they really value transfer students at Missouri State, you know, and to pass that along to a student. Anything else, I would just echo what Cindy and Kimberly have said.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing your answers to those questions. I will now open it up to questions from our attendees. I don't currently see any questions in the chat right now, but I will allow opportunities to come off of mute or raise your hand if you have any questions that you would like to ask either everyone as a group or a specific advisor from an institution. Nicole?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Nicole Gorley. I teach in the biomedical sciences department, specifically the anatomy classes. So one situation that we've actually run into multiple times with students transferring from specifically OTC and other two-year institutions is they have the ability to take anatomy and physiology 1 and 2, and they are being told or incorrectly understanding that it transfers in as the BMS, anatomy and physiology, which are completely separate classes. And so that is something we've run into a lot, and we get, you know, students get very frustrated with us because we won't accept their anatomy and physiology classes that I'm sure were great classes. It just doesn't transfer in as what we offer. So is that something that you guys are aware of, that there is a difference in the two anatomy and physiology classes at Missouri State?
I'll start with Ginger. Ginger, would you like to answer that?
I mean, off the top of my head, it's probably been said to me, but at this point I cannot recall that right now, but definitely I took note of that. Is there, are you seeing that still like very recently?
Yep.
This like new in the last, so I'm sorry, say that again.
Last semester, we had a student asking why they're supposed to be taking our anatomy and physiology class, and it's like, well, it's part of your major. And they said, well, I took it at, you know, OTC, you know, I already took it. And it's like, you took one style, but it's not what counts as ours.
Do you happen to recall what their program was at OTC that they?
I do not.
Okay.
I just know they took anatomy and physiology 1 and 2.
If you, anytime you run across those, please, you know, I'm happy to be kind of the contact for OTC. And to know kind of what their degree is here, that kind of helps me kind of dig a little deeper into where that information might be coming from.
Mhm.
Because, you know, that's like one of our worst nightmares, certainly, is to, you know, have a student in that kind of situation. So, but I will definitely take note of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, are there any other, oh, Kim, yeah, go.
No,
please.
I was just gonna say, as far as Jeffco is concerned, we really only have one A&P. It's a biology based. So, and it's, I mean, it would be there. Well, A&P 1's a motor course. 2 is not, but that definitely is good information to have. I do certainly try to, again, if I'm working with a student that is transferring into a specific program, review those transfer equivalencies when possible. So that's definitely something that's useful to have for each school. And I know Missouri State, y'all do have that transfer equivalency that we can pull up and look and see. Anytime a student is looking at a very specific program with requirements, especially if they're 300, 400 level classes, we want to try to review those with them sooner rather than later. Again, if a student is coming to me at the end of their time here at Jeffco, I can't always go back and, you know, advise them differently. But that we do try to make them aware of those specific program requirements when we can look at those. So that's good information for us to have moving forward.
All right, do we have any other questions for the group? Not seeing any, so I did want to go ahead and share one more time the contact information for Cindy, Kim, and Ginger. If you happen to have questions after the forum or prefer to ask them individually, I'm sure the three of them would welcome an email. So please feel free to do that. And for one final reminder, if you have not already, please put your name and department in the chat so we can get you credit for today. All right, well, in that case, that wraps up our forum for today. Thank you all again for attending, and thank you so much to our attendees for being here. I really appreciate your time. Happy rest of National Transfer Student Week, and have a great rest of your day.